So I'm in my NAD 125 class, and I'm going to do an exam review on my endocrine and diabetes exam stats. So the first thing I do is I want to look at the overall scores on the exam along with statistics. So if I click on the number of attempts, and then I click on our tools cogwheel. Under results, just click results, and if you go to your statistics, I can come through and I can look at the quiz was open for an hour and 40 minutes. 35 students took the exam. The overall grade was a 64.57%. And then you can get a lot of other things like your average grade, your mean grade, your standard deviation. But what I am more worried about is I want to look at the index. So question number 1 got an 88.57% of the students got it correct. I always look at about 35% and below. So if I look at question number 4 at 34%, if I click the question, I come through here and I review the question. Given the structure of the endocrine feedback loop, which event should occur in response to a low serum calcium level? If I come down here, the correct answer is number 1 about the parathyroid gland. 12 students got that right. 19 of my students felt that it was the calcitonin is released from the pituitary. 3 students felt that it was the negative feedback, and 1 student thought about the thyroid stimulating hormone. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look through my notes, and I'm going to find out what section did I teach about the endocrine feedback loop with calcium. What did I teach the students? Is this the correct answer? How did I cover this in class? If I look at my notes and I feel that this was covered very well in class, I'm going to look at the book. What does the book say? Does the book cover this? Why do I think I'm going to do a little research and see why are the students looking at the calcitonin? Why do I think they're looking at that? Is it a good distractor? Is it or sometimes I wonder, are the students just have no idea? Maybe it wasn't covered at all and they're just taking a guess. So my question to myself is, for next year, I'm going to make a notation that says I need to cover this a little bit better. I don't want to teach to the test, but I want to make sure the items are covered well so the students actually understand it and remember it. Maybe this question here, this answer choice here, I need to change this so that the students don't, maybe the students will realize maybe calcitonin is released from the hypothyroid. So change it so that the students see this answer better. Once I'm done looking at this, if I want to make choices, I can come back up here and I can edit it right here and now. And I could come through here and I could make changes just to that choice here or any changes I wanted. And it would be ready for next year when I go ahead and input to my 2020 class. So I continue to go through and look at all questions. I always have a red flag for anything 35% and below. I also have a red flag when I have very high numbers here. So an example would be number 12. 91% of the students got it right. Well, that sounds great that everybody got that right, but if the question is too easy, we need to prepare them for their ultimate goal of passing NCLEX. So we need to look at the question. A nurse is caring for a patient prescribed a drug that blocks a hormone receptor site. What therapeutic effect would the nurse expect? Correct answer is a decreased hormone activity. Well, yep, that sounds pretty good. It's blocked. So maybe next year, instead of saying a drug, maybe I need to give an example of a drug and not give them the information such as blocks a hormone site, because they're automatically putting blocked and decreased. So I just need to change up the question a little bit. It's a good question, but the distractors are not good enough to be an effective question. They would never see something like this on their state boards. So we would change that up and continue to go back. Now, there are sometimes, if I scroll down and I go through a question that maybe has a 10%. Oh, here's one that is at 17%, talking about diabetic ketoacidosis. Question, it talks about implementation first. I come through here and the students want to give insulin. Well, that would make sense, but they have to hydrate the patient. So in this instant, I would probably give the students points back for this because they did not understand this process, that we have to do airway, breathing, circulation. This is considered your circulation, and we have to go with only 6 of our students did that. And I'm going to show you here in a minute how I can find out which 6 students actually got that right. Because at this point, I would like to know that. Are they my top 6 students? Are they just random students? How did that go? 5 students chose this answer. Try to figure out why they did that. So I think this is a great question. I think that this is something that they would indeed see on NCLEX. So I just need to make sure that I cover this better in lecture. I need to make sure that the students are grasping this concept. So the goal with the question 28 is that I'm going to have to change my teaching, and it looks to me like the students did not grasp this concept. I know from experience that DKA is an emergency situation, and I know that the students need to grasp this concept. So I could very well send an email to the students, or I could make sure I cover this on the next class to say, let's talk about a few things from our test. I choose to do individualized test review if a student wants to do test review. I'm very happy to go through the test with them, but I want them to be able to learn. Did they get the question right because they knew it, or did they get the question right because they guessed correctly? So I let them do it on a one-on-one basis. That way they feel that they can have time to ask questions, and it's not a time to debate. It's a time to ask questions for clarification. So I will continue doing my 51%, probably a good solid question. I could take time to look at each of these. 65%, so I'm really liking those numbers. This question here, 100%. So my first thought to myself is that a good question, or is it in a situation where the students need to have 100%? It's a safety thing, or it is something that they really should understand. Patient notes that a hemoglobin A1C level assigned to a patient has dropped from 9.4 to 5.4. The correct answer here should be we have a better control of hyperglycemic. So it sounds to me like the students understand what a hemoglobin A1C is. It looks like I do a good job covering that. It looks like the book covers it, so the students understand that. So I'm not gonna make any changes there. I'm pretty happy with that 100%. So I could maybe make a couple changes on the distractors if I wanted to. I might say something like the patient has more need for insulin in one of these to try to trip them up there. But honestly, I'm pretty happy that they understand the concept, so I probably will just leave it alone. And I'll evaluate next year to say, okay, well, this year's students got 100% on it. What's next year? What are the stats for next year? I've already talked about that 17%. Again, here's the 97%. Do I need to make any changes there? I'll look at this 34%. And pretty much I go through and do this for every question, just so I can make sure that the students understand what they need to understand for the exam, and they are grasping the concept of the material, and they are able to provide safe, effective care. Thanks.